If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars. Milky Way. They told us the planet wanted us dead. They told us the air itself was hostile. They told us that nothing on the surface could be trusted. Not the plants, not the shadows, not even the silence. And then the human volunteered to go first. This was supposed to be a controlled academic expedition. A simple observation mission. No heroics. No risks. No human instincts. That was the phrase Instructor Bleak used, his eye stalks twitching every time he said it. Human instincts get people killed. The briefing hall was cold and metallic, filled with the nervous clicking and murmuring of species who had only ever studied deathworlds through screens. This planet, classified D-17, had wiped out 3 unmanned probes and 1 veteran research team in under 6 hours. That's when Bleak laid down the rule that mattered most. Avoid all wildlife, he said slowly, making sure the translators caught every word. Nothing here is safe. If it moves, you retreat. If it doesn't move, you assume it will. Everyone nodded. Everyone agreed. Everyone except the human. Alex Reyes sat at the back, boots crossed, arms relaxed, wearing that calm expression humans got when they were absolutely not calm at all. The kind of look that made other species uncomfortable without knowing why. When Bleak's gaze lingered on him, Alex just smiled and gave a small nod, as if this were all perfectly reasonable. The first drop went smoothly. Too smoothly. The forest was dense, alien, and quiet in a way that felt wrong. No wind. No birds. No ambient noise. Sensors screamed warnings every few seconds. Spore clouds, acidic sap, electromagnetic distortions. The team moved as trained, slow and careful, documenting everything from a distance. Then Alex stopped. "Something's watching us," he said. The rest of the team froze. Scanners showed nothing. Visual feeds were clear. Bleak ordered an immediate retreat. This was exactly how people died, imagining threats that weren't there. Alex hesitated, just for a second. Then he did something no one expected. He stepped off the trail and vanished into the undergrowth. Shouts erupted. Commands overlapped. Bleak's voice cracked as he ordered Alex back immediately. There was no response. Only the sound of something large moving deeper in the forest, and then silence. Minutes passed, then hours. And just when Bleak was about to declare the first fatality of the mission, Alex walked back into camp, covered in blood, smiling, and dragging something massive behind him. No one spoke. The thing Alex dragged behind him carved a deep groove through the soil. Its hide was thick, ridged, and still steaming faintly in the cold, alien air. 6 limbs. Too many teeth. One glassy eye the size of a helmet stared accusingly at the camp. Every sensor immediately spiked into the red. Instructor Bleak staggered back, eye stalks flaring in pure panic. "Weapons up," he shrieked. "Defensive formation. Reyes, drop it, drop it." Alex obeyed, letting the massive corpse hit the ground with a wet, echoing thud. That, Alex said casually, wiping his hands on his jacket, was definitely watching us. The camp erupted into chaos. Medical drones scanned Alex for injuries. None. Environmental analyzers screamed warnings about toxins, parasites, and unknown pathogens leaking from the creature's body. Several junior researchers retreated behind crates, visibly shaking. Bleak rounded on Alex, his voice trembling with fury and fear. "You violated a direct order. Avoid all wildlife. Do you understand what you've done?" Alex tilted his head. "Yeah, I confirmed it was hostile." That was not the answer Bleak wanted. "This is not a combat mission." Bleak snapped. "This is academic research. You could have been killed. Worse, you could have led it back to the team." Alex's smile faded slightly. Not angry, just focused. "It already knew where you were," he said. "Everything in that forest does. You smell loud." The translator hesitated on that last phrase, clearly unsure how to process it. Bleak scoffed. "Speculation. You have no proof." Alex crouched beside the corpse and tapped a clawed limb. "Actually, I do. See these ridges? Ambush predator. Packs its scent into the air. Tracks movement patterns. It circled you twice before I spotted it." The science team slowly leaned in despite themselves. The data feeds began to align. Motion anomalies. Pressure distortions. Patterns they had dismissed as sensor noise. Bleak went quiet. "You hunted it?" he asked. Alex shrugged. "More like it hunted me first. I just finished the conversation." That's when the survival officer finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Instructor, according to the scans, this creature is apex tier. Estimated kill count in the local ecosystem is extremely high. Silence returned, heavier than before. Bleak looked at the body, then at Alex, then back at the dark forest beyond the perimeter lights. You killed a top predator, he said slowly. Alone? Alex nodded. Yeah. Took longer than I expected. A distant roar echoed through the trees. Not one voice. Many. Alex's head snapped up. His relaxed posture vanished in an instant. That, he said quietly, is the rest of the family. The forest answered Alex's words with movement. Branches bent. The ground vibrated. Shadows slid between the trees like living things. The perimeter lights flickered as something heavy passed just beyond their reach. The research team panicked. Shields up, someone screamed. Signal for extraction, another shouted. Why is the ground breathing? A third voice cried, far too loudly. Instructor Bleak struggled to restore order, but fear moved faster than authority. This wasn't in the briefings. This wasn't in the simulations. Apex predators weren't supposed to have reinforcements. Alex stood perfectly still, eyes locked on the tree line. They're not charging, he said. Yet. Bleak turned on him, almost hysterical. How would you possibly know that? Alex didn't look away. Because if they were, we'd already be dead. That did not help morale. Another roar split the air, closer this time. Sensors lit up with multiple massive heat signatures converging on the camp from different angles. The defensive drones rotated, locking on targets they couldn't yet see. Bleak's voice dropped. This mission is compromised. We evacuate immediately. Alex finally turned. If you do that, you'll lose 3 people before you reach the landing zone. The words were calm. Certain. Bleak hesitated. Explain. They've mapped your routes, Alex said. They don't attack prey in the open. They herd. Push from the sides. Force panic. Break formation. The tactical officer swallowed hard as the data overlays shifted, confirming Alex's assessment in real time. How do you know all this? Bleak demanded. Alex exhaled slowly. Because Earth has things like this. Bigger sometimes. And humans only survived because we learned one rule early. He grabbed a long blade from the equipment rack and tossed another to the nearest security officer. If something evolves to kill everything else, Alex continued, you don't run from it. You make it scared of you. A shape lunged into the light. Not an attack, an inspection. A massive creature circled the camp's edge, muscles rippling under armored hide, eyes reflecting the lights with disturbing intelligence. Then another appeared. And another. They were surrounding them. The science team watched in silent horror as Alex stepped forward beyond the perimeter. Reyes, Bleak shouted. That is an order. Alex raised a hand without turning back. Trust me, or we all die. The largest creature lowered its head and growled, a deep, vibrating sound that rattled equipment and bones alike. Alex answered it, not with a weapon, with a roar of his own. A raw, primal sound ripped from his chest, echoing through the forest like a challenge carved into reality itself. The creatures froze. For the first time since landing, the sensors recorded something unexpected. Fear. The forest held its breath. Alex stood alone in the open, framed by perimeter lights, blood still drying on his jacket. The alien predators shifted uneasily, massive claws digging into the soil, eyes locked on him with a mix of rage and hesitation. Instructor Bleak whispered, almost to himself, this is insanity. Alex didn't move, didn't blink. He lowered his center of gravity slightly, subtle, deliberate. A posture change most species wouldn't notice. But the predators did. One stepped forward, jaws parting just enough to reveal rows of serrated teeth. A warning display. A threat. Alex answered by dragging the dead apex corpse a meter closer to the creature and planting his boot on it. The message was unmistakable. The science team watched in stunned silence as the largest predator released a low, rumbling sound. Not an attack call, but a dominance query. The translator struggled, then failed entirely. Alex nodded, as if he understood anyway. Yeah, he muttered. I figured you'd ask that. He reached down, snapped off one of the corpse's heavy bone spines with a sharp crack, and tossed it onto the ground between them. Then he drew his blade and carved a deep line across his own palm, letting blood drip onto the soil. Gasps rippled through the camp. Bleak nearly fainted. He's marking territory, the xenobiologist whispered in disbelief. Alex's blood hit the ground, and the sensors went wild. The predators recoiled slightly. The chemical analysis spiked, identifying dense iron, adrenaline compounds, and stress hormones far beyond expected levels. Alex spoke, slow and clear. "This one," he said, gesturing to the corpse, "came into my space." That was a mistake. The largest predator stepped back. A smaller one snapped its jaws in defiance. Alex turned his head sharply and stared at it. The creature flinched. That was when the realization hit the team like a shockwave. These weren't mindless beasts. They were calculating, weighing loss versus gain. Bleak's voice trembled. "Reyes, what are you doing?" Alex didn't turn. "Negotiating." The forest echoed with another rumble. This one different. Lower. Resigned. One by one, the predators backed away, melting into the trees, never breaking eye contact. When the last shadow vanished, the camp remained frozen in disbelief. Alex exhaled, shoulders finally relaxing. "Okay," he said, turning back toward them. "Now we can eat." Bleak stared at him, horrified. "Eat what?" Alex pointed at the corpse. "Dinner." The medical officer's scanner chimed. "Edible. High protein. Surprisingly safe." Bleak felt something cold crawl down his spine. This wasn't an exception. This was normal. No one touched the carcass. It lay there between crates and instruments like a challenge no one wanted to accept. The smell alone was enough to make several researchers gag, even through sealed filters. And yet, every scanner insisted on the same impossible conclusion. Non-toxic, nutrient-dense, biologically compatible. Instructor Bleak stared at the data, then at Alex. "You expect us to consume an apex predator?" Alex shrugged as he began setting up a small, controlled fire pit. Movements practiced, almost ritualistic. "You expect to survive on ration paste for 6 weeks on a death world?" That shut everyone up. As Alex worked, the xenobiologists gathered, curiosity slowly overpowering fear. He explained as he went how predators on high lethality worlds often made the safest meals because toxins traveled up the food chain, not down. How muscle density told you which cuts were viable. How smell alone could warn you what not to eat. "This isn't barbarism," he said, slicing with precise efficiency. "It's field adaptation." The fire crackled. Fat hissed. The scent changed. And against all logic, it smelled good. Bleak watched the team react in real time. Shoulders relaxing. Breathing slowing. The simple psychological effect of warm food in a hostile environment took hold. Alex handed the first portion to Bleak. The instructor recoiled. "Absolutely not." Alex didn't argue. He simply set it down beside him. Moments later, another distant sound rolled through the forest. Not a roar this time, but a low, echoing call. The perimeter alarms spiked again. Bleak stiffened. "They're coming back." Alex shook his head. "No, they're watching." The security officer checked the feeds. Multiple heat signatures at long range. "Stationary. Observing." "They're learning," Alex said. "We took one. We didn't panic. We didn't flee. That changes the equation." Bleak swallowed hard. "And what equation is that?" Alex met his gaze. "Whether we're prey." Bleak finally picked up the portion and took a cautious bite. Silence followed. Then his eyes widened. "It's acceptable," he admitted, horrified at himself. A few others followed. Then more. Morale surged, not with celebration, but with something more dangerous. Confidence. That night, for the first time since landing, the team slept in shifts without panic. But Alex didn't sleep. He sat at the edge of the light, staring into the darkness. Because something about those calls bothered him. They hadn't sounded angry. They'd sounded curious. The second day changed everything. At dawn, the sensors reported something unprecedented. The surrounding wildlife had altered its movement patterns. Wide arcs around the camp. No direct approaches, no probing incursions. The predators hadn't left. They had adapted. Instructor Bleak reviewed the data in silence. "They're treating us as a rival presence," he finally said. "Not prey. Not predators. Equals." Alex sipped from a heated ration cup. "Not equals," he corrected. "Unknowns. And that scares smart hunters more than anything." The team resumed research under heavy guard. Sample collection. Terrain mapping. Atmospheric analysis. For the first time, progress outpaced casualties. Then the alarms chimed again. But this time, there was no panic. A single large heat signature approached from the eastern ridge. Slow. Unarmed, at least by the scanner's definitions. Bleak's voice dropped. It's one of them. Alone. Alex stood. Yeah, I was hoping for that. He stepped beyond the perimeter before anyone could stop him. The creature emerged fully into view, scarred, older, with one clouded eye. The same one that had backed down the night before. It stopped at the edge of the light and lowered its head. Not submission. Acknowledgement. The xenolinguist whispered. It's presenting itself. Alex nodded. Diplomatic visit. The creature pushed something forward with its claw. A body. One of their kind. Smaller. Younger. Recently killed. Gasps erupted. Bleak's voice shook. It's threatening us. Alex crouched, examining the offering. No. It's apologizing. He stood and addressed the creature, voice steady. Your hunter crossed a boundary. The creature rumbled softly. We responded. Another rumble. This one did the same. Alex continued, gesturing to the corpse. You handled it. The creature lifted its head slightly. The exchange was unmistakable. Justice recognized. Bleak's worldview cracked. They understand rules, he whispered. Alex glanced back. All survivors do. The creature backed away, then paused, eyes locking on Alex one last time. Respect. Then it vanished into the forest. The camp stood frozen in awe. Moments later, the xenobiologist spoke. Instructor, this changes the entire classification of this world. Bleak nodded slowly. Yes, it does. Alex sat back down, finally allowing himself to relax. Congratulations, he said. We're no longer trespassers. Bleak swallowed. What are we, then? Alex smiled faintly. Neighbors. Becoming neighbors on a death world came with consequences. By the third day, the camp had visitors, not predators, but scouts. Smaller creatures lingered at the edge of sensor range, watching the humans and their allies with open curiosity. They never crossed the light. They never threatened. They observed. Instructor Bleak convened an emergency council. This expedition was never approved for first contact scenarios. The xenolinguist didn't look up from her data. They initiated it, Instructor. By our own definitions. Bleak turned to Alex. You've changed the ecological balance of this region. Alex leaned back. No, I just revealed where we fit into it. That night, a storm rolled in. Acid rain lashed the canopy, forcing the team into reinforced shelters. Visibility dropped to near zero. Sensors flickered under electromagnetic interference. That's when the perimeter failed. A power relay detonated with a sharp crack, plunging half the camp into darkness. Immediately, movement surged. Bleak felt his heart seize. They're attacking. Alex was already moving. No, something else is. A massive shape burst through the rain. Longer, lower, faster than anything they'd seen. Not one of the predators. Arrival. It slammed into the outer barrier, shredding alloy like paper. Screams filled the comms. Before the defense drones could lock on, the watching predators emerged from the storm. Not toward the camp, toward the intruder. The forest erupted into violence. The team watched in stunned silence as the predators they had feared for days coordinated flawlessly, driving the rival beast away from the camp perimeter. Bleak whispered, They're protecting us. Alex nodded. Territory works both ways. The storm passed. The attackers vanished. The camp still stood. At dawn, the same scarred predator appeared again, this time with others behind it. They stopped at the light's edge. Alex stepped forward. The creature lowered its head. An unmistakable sign. The xenolinguist's voice trembled. They're offering alliance. Bleak felt something shift inside him. With us. Alex glanced back at the team. You broke the first rule of deathworlds. Bleak frowned. Which rule? Alex smiled. Never arrive alone. The galaxy was not ready for the report that followed. Instructor Bleak sat alone in the command shelter, staring at the draft transmission for nearly an hour before sending it. Every word felt like heresy. Death worlds were meant to be studied from orbit, cataloged, and avoided, not cohabited. Yet the data didn't lie. Hostile encounters, decreasing. Resource stability, increasing. Predator proximity, controlled, deliberate, protective. Bleak finally sent the report. Within hours, responses flooded in, shock, disbelief, accusations of contamination and protocol violations. One message appeared again and again from command. Withdraw immediately. This world is too unstable. Alex read the message over Bleak's shoulder and exhaled through his nose. They don't get it. Bleak didn't argue. No, they don't. That night, the predators gathered again at the edge of camp. Not in hunting formation. Not aggressive. They simply waited. Alex approached with no weapons this time. The scarred one stepped forward and pressed a claw into the soil, carving a deep symbol. Jagged, circular, deliberate. The xenolinguist gasped. It's a boundary marker. Alex crouched beside it. Yeah, they're telling us something. He took a heated tool and burned a matching symbol into a metal plate at the camp's edge, then extended it outward, half in the light, half in the dark. The predators watched intently. This place, Alex said quietly, is shared. The scarred predator rumbled approval. Bleak's voice cracked. You're establishing a treaty. Alex nodded. Oldest one there is. The next morning, Orbital Command sent a final ultimatum. Fleet assets were inbound. Forced evacuation. Quarantine. Potential sterilization of the surface if xenocognitive contamination was confirmed. Bleak felt sick. Alex didn't. They won't land, he said. Bleak stared at him. How can you be so sure? Alex looked toward the forest. Because the predators were moving. Not toward the camp. Toward the designated landing zone. Sensors showed dozens of massive signatures converging, silent, disciplined, precise. They think we're under threat, Bleak whispered. Alex nodded. And on this world, that makes them our backup. Bleak realized, in that moment, the terrifying truth. Humanity hadn't just survived a death world. They had been adopted by it. And the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The fleet arrived in perfect formation. 6 research cruisers. 2 quarantine frigates. 1 orbital enforcement platform. Enough firepower to sterilize the continent below if command deemed it necessary. Instructor Bleak watched the tactical feed with numb disbelief. They're really going to do it, he whispered. They're going to burn this world because they don't understand it. Alex stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes fixed on a different screen. The surface feed. The landing zone was alive with motion. The predators didn't charge blindly. They positioned themselves along natural choke points, rock spines, dense growth, sinkholes invisible from orbit. They moved with intent, with strategy. Bleak felt his breath hitch. They're setting an ambush. Alex shook his head. No, they're setting a boundary. The first shuttle broke atmosphere. Its pilot's voice came through comms, tense and confused. Command, we're reading massive life signs. Hundreds. No, thousands. They're not attacking, but they're blocking the approach vectors. The orbital commander snapped back. Proceed anyway. That's when the scarred elder predator stepped into the open. It didn't roar. It didn't threaten. It stood its ground. Then the forest answered. Every predator rose into view, silent, unmoving, an unbroken wall of muscle, claw, and teeth stretching farther than the sensors could count. The shuttle stopped. The pilot's voice cracked. Sir, they're not prey. They're organized. On the command deck above the planet, hesitation rippled through the fleet. Bleak leaned closer to Alex. If they fire, they won't, Alex said quietly. Because now it's not about us. The elder predator lowered its head and carved the same jagged circle into the soil, slow, deliberate, undeniable. The boundary. The symbol appeared on every surface feed, every angle, every camera. The xenolinguists aboard the fleet froze. That's a territorial declaration, one whispered. A sovereign claim. The orbital commander went pale. From animals? Alex finally spoke into the open channel. This world has residents, he said. They understand rules. They understand borders. And they understand retaliation. Silence followed. Then the words no one expected. Recommend withdrawal. The commander said slowly. The fleet adjusted course. Shuttles turned away. Orbit stabilized at a safe distance. On the surface, the predators relaxed, but did not disperse. They had been heard. Bleak felt his knees weaken. You just forced the galaxy to back down. Alex shook his head. No, he said. They did. He watched the forest with something like respect. And now, he added quietly, everyone knows what happens when humans stop avoiding wildlife and start listening. The official records would never tell the full story. They would say the expedition concluded early due to unexpected ecological intelligence. They would classify the planet as a protected sentient biosphere and quietly mark it as off-limits. No tourism, no mining, no colonization, no explanations. But among those who were there, the truth spread anyway. Instructor Bleak stood at the edge of the camp one last time as evacuation transports powered up, not under threat, not under orders, but by agreement. The predators watched from the tree-line, silent and unmoving, as they always had. Alex approached the scarred Elder One for the final time. He didn't bow. He didn't salute. He simply placed a hand over his chest, then pressed it to the ground. A gesture older than language. The predator mirrored it in its own way, claw touching soil, head lowering just slightly. Bleak swallowed hard. "You realize," he said, "this changes humanity's reputation forever." Alex smiled faintly. "Good." As the transports lifted off, the sensors confirmed something impossible. The predators didn't follow. They didn't mourn. They returned to their routines, confident, secure, unthreatened. They had won something more valuable than territory. They had gained certainty. Back in orbit, the fleet maintained a respectful distance. No one argued. No one challenged the classification. The final report contained one unofficial note. Never signed, never acknowledged, but widely circulated among high-risk exploration teams. Avoid all wildlife, unless you're human. Then remember, you're not entering a food chain. You're entering a negotiation. Months later, when other deathworld expeditions began requesting human advisors, when predators across multiple systems began showing unexpected restraint around human settlements, when the galaxy started whispering that humans weren't conquerors, they were neighbors, everyone remembered the same story, the one where an instructor said, "Avoid all wildlife," and a human came back with dinner.